If everyone please rise and pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's the active words.
You would please call roll.
Perry? Here. Barron? Here. Braverman? Klein?
Here.
Bilski?
Here.
Luder?
Yes.
Burr?
Yes. Mr. Braverman is here. He's walking in right now.
Do I have a pen?
Yell here.
Braverman?
And yell here. Say here. Oh.
Hearing is not good.
Are you here?
Okay.
I'm hearing.
Spelled H-E-A-R.
Body, maybe not mine. All right. So, can I have a motion to approve the regular council meeting minutes of October 10th, 2018?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Does anybody have any comments? Okay. If not, call roll.
Perry? Yes. Barron?
Yes.
Braverman?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes. Yes.
Luder?
Yes.
Yes. Can I have a motion to authorize the mayor to expend $15,575.40 to settle the village's long-term obligation to the police and fire pension fund?
Moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Mayor, do you want to comment? Oh,
Defer to Dana.
hi, Dana.
Good evening. In 1968, the Police and Fire Pension Fund was established to pay a long-term portion from when it was established in 1965. So every year, twice a year, the village is making a payment, roughly around just under $1,300 a year. We received a notice this year that we can pay off the remaining balance, which is the $15,000 we're talking about tonight. The interest rate is 4.25%, and we'll save about $6,000 in interest. So I recommended that we pay it off because we can save $6,000.
Nice. Any comments? All right.
Go with it.
I like it. So if you'd call roll, please.
Perry?
Yeah.
Barron?
Yes.
Braverman?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Bilski?
Yes.
Kluder?
Yes.
Duber?
Yes. Good looking out, Dana. Thank you. And moving on to the presentation by Matt Stasinski, MAS Financial Advisory Services LLC, and Catherine Schwartz, Catherine Schwartz of Brickler and Eckler.
We might as well acknowledge that the Orange School treasurer, Todd Payton, who is there?
Oh, hello. Matt, you're up.
There were items before us.
There were. Welcome.
Good evening. Catherine Schwartz, Bricker and Eckler. We're going to do this jointly. TIF is a complicated little subject.
The F, see the, little like F8, I think, see it, where it has,
Get down that way.
I know it's simple.
I didn't review this.
All right, so you should all have a copy of the presentation. That's just in case you want to put notes on it, for future reference. We're going to try to go through this quickly. TIF is complicated. We're going to go through the presentation as quickly as we can to allow time for questions. Steve's giving me a timeline of 4.5 minutes.
I just said that would be twice as good as a 9-minute presentation.
So Catherine's going to start. And Catherine, of course, from Brickler Eckler, you probably remember working with her colleague, Price Finley. Price and Catherine are jointly working on this. Catherine is located here in Cleveland, and Price, of course, is from Columbus. We're going to talk about TIF generally, very quickly. That's the purpose of some of these, we'll call bullet points. I don't know if you can see this or not very clearly, but that's why we're giving you the presentation document in hand. When we talk about TIF generally, we're going to talk about specifically this type of non-school TIF. Specifically, we're going to talk about tax increment financing in terms of the working components of it. And, so we're going to wrap this up with a couple of themes, but we're going to share with you the themes ahead of time. 2, it's less complicated than finance. 3, the school district will receive 100% compensation for what they would have otherwise received. So the school district won't lose 1 penny. The school district receives notice, but the school board is not required to act upon take any action as it relates to this TIF. We have already served the school district with proper notice, and they need 14 days time period between the point of notice and the point that council acts. By the time we get to third reading, we'll actually well be achieved it, but we're still expecting council to go through 3 proper readings of this legislation. This is not a tax break. Okay, the property owner will pay the full amount of their property taxes as they had whether or not, as though it were not a TIF. Okay? We are not sharing any of the TIF with the developer. We will receive the proceeds of the TIF. We're basically capturing the county's portion and the village's portion we're repurposing for capital improvements. Some of which you already set aside for capital improvements. A portion of your existing taxes goes into a improvement fund, but we will set up a separate tax increment financing capital improvement fund, and these proceeds will all be deposited in there. And we'll talk about the uses of those, which are in the legislation in detail, but we'll generally speak to them tonight as well. Okay? So those are the general themes of the conversation. I'm going to turn over to Catherine, who's going to walk through these bullets again, talking generally about TIF. If I could trouble you to just hold off on questions until we get through it quickly, and then we'll blast through all those questions. Okay? I heard I can see you. You got your finger on the button ready to go.
I'll wait. Yeah, I'll wait.
All right. Sorry, I thought I was stepping on something. I'm going to turn it over to you. Ken, you want me to turn a light?
We have the, it's fine.
Well, it's also in the document here, so.
Turn it off.
I don't like to fall asleep.
So the basic legal structure, the creation of a TIF district is by the legislative authority, that's you, passing an ordinance, which you have here on second reading. The legislation initiates the base year, the value. So we look back to, if you pass the ordinance in 2018, you look back to the base value, the value of the property as of January 1, 2018. The ordinance identifies the TIF boundaries and the parcels that are incorporated into the TIF. Notice must be given to affected school district, has already occurred, and a form DTE 24 exemption application will be filed with the Ohio Department of Taxation. The TIF may or may not include a financing. Financing is not required with the TIF funds, but it can be used. That's a key note. This is a project TIF. As Matt said, it's different than the Pinecrest TIF. So it can include commercial parcels, including apartments. There are certain parcels that are designated, and the public infrastructure improvements must directly benefit the parcels exempted. So there must be some nexus between the capital improvement that are used with the dollars in that cost source for the TIF that the pilot payments go into, and the public infrastructure improvements that are used from that cost source. A TIF is eligible for a 30-year exemption. So essentially, the property owner is going to be paying the same amount as they normally would for property taxes, but a portion of those property taxes will be diverted into this cost center. The use of TIF revenue or these pilot payments, payment in lieu of taxes. The eligible uses include, this is not an exhaustive list, basic infrastructure like roads, water, sanitary, storm, all in the vicinity of the improved parcels, of the developed parcels, land acquisition, demolition, environmental remediation, any kind of utility facilities, municipal facilities that serve the development, road, water, sewer, maintenance, planning, and this goes into not only the hard costs, but also the planning, the soft costs like design and engineering. The TIF revenue can also be used for debt service if a financing occurs in order to get money up front in order to do a larger improvement that will be paid from out of the TIF revenues. Turn it over to Matt.
Yeah, so I hope you can see this, but of course, this is Harvard Road on top here, heading east this way, heading west this way. This is south of Harvard Road. Pinecrest, of course, is on top here. This is an easement here. So these three parcels, those that are Harvard, you have a map in front of you that identifies the three parcels that are being, that are included in the legislation that's before this council. And those are the three parcels that are part of this TIF legislation. Okay? This parcel here is where currently the Cooper's Hawk sits. This parcel here is where I believe there was at least another restaurant that was being considered for that parcel here. And the hotel parcel sits back here. Okay? As we know, this is coming out of the ground now. And as Catherine mentioned, part of the important timing of this TIF legislation is you're trying to establish the base value at the lowest possible value, okay, at the beginning of the year when you pass the ordinance. So the lowest possible year that we can capture the base value for this parcel is, of course, January 1st of 2018. So we're getting the increment of anything that occurs there in 2018 that is going to be on the tax certificate January 1st of 2019. In order to create that base value, establish that base value, you have to pass the legislation this year, all right, which is important. I'm trying to get this before the village council and pass before the end of the year. The legislation also points out that, and by the way, we will be capturing the increment from that parcel for 30 years. So that improvement will generate pilot payments, which are equivalent to the property taxes that would have been otherwise paid. And that's going to come to the village in tax revenues from the county treasurer and into a capital improvement fund for the next 30 years, assuming there's still value there, as long as that period. The other piece of the legislation that is important is that though the clock starts ticking, well, the clock starts ticking on each of these parcels when a structure shows up on that parcel. So though we're passing the legislation this year, we're establishing the base value, the clock for the 30-year exemption will start on this parcel this year, but it won't start on this parcel or this parcel until a structure shows up. So we don't burn those 30 years unnecessarily. We don't want to waste years with nothing on it, and the legislation is crafted so that that clock won't start ticking until a structure shows up on that parcel. Okay, which is great news for us. So we can slowly drop this in. No, Mayor, you can't ask a question. Okay? I'm going to move through this very quickly. All right, so again, what we're trying to do is capture the increment of the new development on that parcel. The real estate taxes that are currently being paid on that parcel will go to the existing political subdivisions. So the school district will continue to get their property taxes, the county will get their property taxes, and the village will get their property taxes on the existing base value of that parcel. We're capturing the increment. The property owner, again, one very important, does not receive a tax break. On the increase in value, they will make pilot payments, and those pilot payments will be distributed to the political subdivisions, and I'll show you an example of that. So what we're capturing here, what we're showing here is a hypothetical example of how the revenue stream works. The political subdivisions will continue to get the base value, and just let's say it's a hypothetical $1 million worth of base value at that land. Now, in fact, that land value, we can't say with certainty because that land right now is one big tract. In 2018, it's been split, and when the county figures out how to establish the base value based upon the splits, we'll know what that base value is. But we are going to try to capture the increment, which at the moment is merely Cooper's Hawk. Okay? And we're just saying hypothetically that's $10 million. The increment of that $10 million will be the pilot payments, and you'll see how we're going to allocate those pilot payments in a second. okay? So those pilot payments, most importantly, property owner makes pilot payments equal to property taxes. There's no tax break. This is, again, within the statute, we call this a non-school tip, which the primary issue here is the school district receives 100% compensation from the pilot payments that they would have received from property taxes, okay? The TIF revenue is repurposed for the property tax, from property tax, and it's called pilots, and we're essentially capturing the county's millage and the village's millage, okay? And we're repurposing it into a capital improvement fund. It's an exemption for 30 years. We have to provide notice to the schools, but as I mentioned earlier, the school board is not required to act on it. We just have to merely provide them with notice. And there's no school compensation agreement, and obviously that's redundant with what I just said. So out of the county's database, we selected some information. You'll see it there, it's difficult to read, but it basically shows the percentages of what the county receives, the school district receives, the library, and the village. They say city here in the county's information, but of course we're talking about the village. And then the commercial district the commercial tax rates for Orange Village is 84.5 mils, roughly, okay, approximately. I know it's hard to read and it's hard to read here, but trust me, it's 84.5 mils. This is right from the county's website. All right, and that, giving you a better visual aid, it just shows how the county's tax mills is split. Okay, 63.5% of each dollar goes to the schools, 28.2% goes to the county, and other taxing districts, Tri-C, the library, the Metro Parks, the Port Authority. That is all summed up in 28.2, and 8.3% of each tax dollar goes to the village, and as you know how that's allocated. The general fund, the permanent improvement fund, etc. Again, what we are capturing is this section here. This 63.5% flows right back to the school district. No changes to the school district's revenue stream. And that's all based upon the new value, of course. So I'm going to give you a little example of how this works. Based upon my prior example of $10 million worth of increment, okay, market value, the assessed value of that increment is worth $3.5 million. Based upon the tax, that's how they would be taxed based on $3.5 million. If we multiply that by 84.5 mils, we come up with $295,000 in property taxes on the increment. Okay, those are all repurposed because now we're in an exempt district. It's all called pilot payments. Payments in lieu of taxes. And out of that $295,000, county treasurer will send the 187,801, 63.5% of those proceeds. They'll send them directly to the school district, and their two settlements that they receive. Okay, some advances perhaps, but they'll get their money directly. What we will capture, the village will capture, is this remainder, the 107,949, which of course is the county's portion, 83,402, and the village's portion of 24,547, which otherwise would go to the village in its general fund and its permanent improvement fund, but we are going to capture it all into a permanent improvement fund, used for the purposes that Catherine previously mentioned here on the screen, and which are listed in detail in the back of your legislation. We capture that, as long as there's value on that property, and let's just say it's hypothetically $10 million, we'll receive that amount for 30 years. Now, it's not going to flow in at $10 million in the first year, right? It's going to flow in, the base value, the first year might be $5 or $6 million or $3 million, however the county values that could be called. Or when the Drury Hotel, should they come online, when that comes online, this slide here will not look like a straight line. It'll have a tiered approach to it in terms of the first year being the Cooper's Hawk, the second or third year bringing on the hotel, maybe the fourth year bringing on the restaurant, who knows? And hypothetically, whatever happens on those remaining 40 acres might come in down here, and we'd have to come back to the village council with legislation and separately approve those parcels when that land is split and built and developed. But at the moment, we're not capturing anything on that. All those property taxes from that base value of that Chagrin Highlands land goes to the political subdivision. Okay, so that is the end of my presentation, and we are wide open for questions from Catherine or myself. Mayor, please.
So, what I never understood till just now is that when the new property comes online, the 30 years starts again?
When the new property comes online?
Okay, so when the hotel comes in, then that starts 30 years again?
Yeah,
So Cooper's Hawk will be on year 28, and they'll be on year 30.
That's exactly.
Okay.
They'll be on, so to your point, Cooper's Hawk will be on year 1, starting in 2019. The Drury Hotel will be on 0. When that structure shows up on that parcel, that's when the clock starts ticking for that parcel, and the 30-year ticker.
So is there any reason why we didn't just do the entire thing? If the office building is built 20 years, but the 30 years doesn't start counting until that's...
We talked about that,
I'm not saying we should just hold up what we're doing now.
You mean the remaining parcels in Chagrin Highland, the remaining 40 acres? We talked about that, and we said to delay.
But it doesn't matter. From what I'm understanding now...
We're not losing anything by not having it in this.
And we wouldn't have lost anything by having it.
That's correct.
Well, to that point, is it that the incremental value hasn't occurred yet for that property, so there's no way of assessing what the value would be for tax purposes without a structure being on it?
Without a structure, there's no increment. So
Yeah.
we're not we would be establishing a base value this year, and who knows if that base value goes up or down going forward. So that value of that land could go down and improve our position, or it could go up.
It'll probably go up, realistically speaking, right? I mean,
Go down.
You would think so, but
yeah.
who knows when that value, when something new comes on that site?
I mean, we
It
could
could be
wait
10
till
years
then.
from now.
We could wait till then, or we could... Next year do it.
We could do it next year, certainly. We could.
Then we would start losing years.
No, that's what he's saying.
Not until the structure is built on that property. So if you look in section 2, I believe, of the legislation, it specifically references the TIF years does not start until a structure is on the tax duplicate at the county.
You set the value now.
Base value this year, the clock for the 30-year exemption doesn't start to lose the structure on the side.
So then I guess I don't understand why we wouldn't set the whole thing now, because I think, and I guess I don't know enough about it, but I would just, from a common sense standpoint, think that the lowest value is probably now, and going over time, it will only get better sans a market crash kind of thing.
You know, we talked a little bit about that, and we just said we know these parcels are identified, we know there's likely development on there. Don't discount what you're suggesting is a reasonable alternative, but we decided that was, for purposes, I guess, for conversation and making sure that it's simple, that we just would identify the parcels that are being currently developed.
Would it matter if the bigger parcel got subdivided later on? Would that affect it?
It should not. It should not.
And if you already
The value won't be equal each year. I mean, what happens if the value goes higher than the agreement? Do we get all that?
So we have no agreement, or just to be clear, if the value goes higher on what specifically?
Well, I mean, you have it level all those years.
Yeah, it could go up.
Value is higher, we capture all increment going higher. We capture that.
Capture that, that's what
Capture that.
okay.
Goes twice that, we capture it.
So all we're really doing is, are we tying up the use of that much of it? Is that what you're saying? We have to devote it to the purposes that are in the
Legislation.
permitted under the statute?
That's correct. Otherwise, those dollars, the county would get those monies and use it how they choose to use those monies. We're capturing the county's dollars and putting them into a capital improvement fund.
You decide how to use
You
them.
decide how to use them.
Matt,
We have to use them for certain things.
Well, that which is a pretty broad list, that's a.
That's a good list, okay.
Mostly capital improvements, as you saw the list, capital improvements, infrastructure, utility, that has some relation, nexus, if you will, to the development. Please.
It could be an intersection that's a mile down the road, as we discussed, as long as
How is this?
well, hold on one second. I just want to finish asking about what I was asking about, if you don't mind. Sorry, Herb. So if we establish the value now, and we, on the whole portion, yeah, but say if nothing starts getting built, and then say the market were to tank and the value would go down, if nothing is built yet on some of the parcels, are we able to reestablish are we able to start over and reestablish the initial base value?
We give it a higher base.
No, the base value stays at the higher value.
It was to stay, once it's established, it is what it is.
That's the risk in that. That's the reason for holding it back.
We know that this is an appraisal year, right? That value's popped already in terms of what's gonna show up on the 1/118.
How does this interact with the dollars that are coming from the Pinecrest TIF?
Doesn't at all. They're not,
No intersection. No intersection.
Not the dollars so much, but the uses? Don't they have to, I mean, don't the dollars from the Pinecrest TIF have?
they have to be going to Pinecrest.
Financing, is that only for financing?
Pinecrest dollars flow to Pinecrest primarily for debt service, and then flows back to the school district as part of the school district compensation agreement.
That's-
No intersection here between those.
So the value, I would assume that the value of this went up with the most recent county, so, and that would start next year? Okay, so it definitely would make sense then to do it this year, because there's already an increase in that value, I would assume, right?
Well, we're capturing a higher value, right?
Oh, we capture the higher,
We
even,
captured the higher value of all the properties on there, okay, except for new construction. We haven't, again, the county's gonna go back and look at the land value, all right, as of 1/1/18. We're capturing new construction that has occurred since 1/1/18, which is at Cooper's Hawk. Okay, and that is gonna be on the duplicate 1/1/19, as well as all those increased land values. Catherine, I didn't want to interrupt you. I started saying.
I'm not trying to upend what we're doing. I think we should go forward and do it. Almost sorry I asked the question because I could have brought it up after this was done. I don't know why we don't go do the rest,
So
but.
we had this conversation, again, we were jointly on a call together with Price and Catherine, and we said, let's hold off on the remaining acreage until we know that there's something that's going to happen there, and then not take a gamble on establishing the base value now. In a year where we've already had the tax duplicate higher, it could go lower. And we don't know how they're going to value, here's the key, we don't know how they're going to value the base value of these properties, these three that we have here. So we have to figure out how we're gonna establish the base value of these three parcels. We don't even know that yet.
I thought the new county tax value starts next year.
We're doing it now for 1/1/18 tax year, collection year.
Oh, so what they put out is still retro back to
1/1/18.
gotcha, okay.
What we spend in that area is going to affect the value. I mean, what we put in to these various categories is going to change the value on the property, well,
It
not.
happens to be in front of it, I suppose. As the mayor mentioned, and Catherine, you support me in this, you can use this as an intersection 2 miles away from that site.
Okay, well,
It's
then-
on the way.
As long as there's some
There's
relationship.
some relationship if there's so much traffic coming through that intersection to get to the development, that it's causing some problem.
Theoretically, what we spend could drive up the base on another parcel.
It could, it could. It
Well,
could.
but we're not gonna be spending anything right there because it's brand new. But we'll have the
I understand,
20, 30
yeah.
years.
Well,
We're
yeah.
concerned
Might be an
about
opportunity.
We want to be prepared for it. We don't know what's going to happen 10 years from now. But if we are concerned about building up some funding for an intersection that's somewhere else in the village, that there has become a problem, either from traffic signalization or overuse of some types, and it has to be rebuilt, we're trying to build up a pot of money to be prepared for that. We may not even use those monies for 5 years. They can sit in a pool,
So who, I don't want to say who's disadvantaged here, but is the county giving something up to us? Is that the
This
point?
is part of an economic development program for the county, and the county is foregoing.
Giving the dollars to us?
The state's doing it to the
The
county.
state
Right, but-
statute, but the county is foregoing revenues that they would otherwise receive,
We can use them here.
so we can use them as economic development incentive.
I have a couple of questions for you. Number one, what are the qualifications required to designate a property within this to be eligible for this program?
Is the commercial value,
So any future development in Orange
commercial,
that's commercial, we would have the opportunity to do this?
capture.
There's different types of, there are many different types of TIF structures, but specifically for this.
And then when did this one actually go into effect?
Well, it hasn't gone into effect, it would go into effect.
I'm talking about when did this become a possibility for us to?
Oh, well,
I can ask that too.
so TIF has been around generally for 40 years,
Okay.
okay? There are almost 100 TIFs in Cuyahoga County now. I would say maybe, and I don't know, you have to go through the state's website to drill down on each of those, to determine whether or not they're a non-school TIF, or as Catherine mentioned, there's 6 different types of TIF statutes. You have to drill down on each one. But this has been, we'll call it more common more recently. In the last couple of years, we started to see more cities jump on the bandwagon of trying to capture this county money by way of economic development and using it for its own capital improvement projects.
And is it around for a finite amount of time, or?
Well, going back to your question or your point about doing it this year, we never know whether or not the state statute can change, or they can.
And that was part of the discussion. I did get a more detailed, price is longer remembrance of the discussion we had about why didn't we include everything. And we decided that if you include everything now, that means that limits your options. I mean, there are other types of TIF structures that might work better for those other parcels, once you know exactly what development is being contemplated. So instead of locking yourself into this.
So is the TIF 30 years under the statute, or is the time frame flexible?
30 years or less.
That's what I'm saying, is how do we determine the time frame?
We took the max.
Huh?
We took the maximum.
Oh, you're right.
That's how we did it. More often than not, unless there's some compelling reason to take something shorter, municipalities are taking the maximum available to them.
Is there any risk of the state changing their mind with this and not grandfathering existing?
I suppose there's always that risk.
And what if they didn't? Then we.
Right.
The changes could make TIF options more permissible and
Right, or-
sort of more flexible, or they could be more restrictive. You can't really predict what they could be.
So did you find out when the statute went into place?
So we ask that question all the time.
Right.
What's the risk of doing this now versus doing it later? Trying to capture now seems to be, obviously in our situation, trying to capture this before that value comes out of the ground is really critically important. And obviously the state can do whatever they want in terms of changing the statute. But we're trying to capture this, what's available to us today for our economic development purposes based upon today's statute.
This probably wouldn't happen, but if you had to use the property for a purpose that's not covered by the statute, would you lose the TIF? Because, I mean, in other words, if you had to go to something that wasn't listed here, if it wasn't commercial and it wasn't an apartment.
So I've heard this conversation, and I'll hesitate to give you a good answer. If at some point someone tried to rezone this or
Something, yeah.
A parcel and used it for a not-for-profit purpose, right? Or church or a healthcare institution that's not-for-profit, that's a possibility. That's a possibility. You would lose the TIF value. That is true.
Would it revert to regular property tax?
Well, you wouldn't be, if it's not-for-profit, it's not going to pay any property.
Oh, yeah. If it's not for profit, sorry.
Right.
In the,
if you went
the eligible uses that are listed here,
Lose what we're talking.
you have amongst them is municipal facilities that serve the development. Could that be equipment that the village might have to purchase to accommodate a particular use that the site has on it?
So I'll defer to Catherine on that, but I certainly have heard that conversation. I certainly have seen that being used
For example, an
for
emergency
dump truck,
vehicle.
Service department.
Service,
For plowing that street and all the roads that go to it.
yeah.
Right, I certainly have seen that.
I think you can, that it's drawn pretty broadly, but I don't know if I'm not sure if there's a 5-year useful life type requirement. I mean, you're looking at permanent improvement, so you're looking for items that are collective.
When it talks about debt service, are we talking about debt service only on the other items in the list?
So if you were to, you can use your, the theoretical 185,000. Is that what the annual?
It was 107,000.
107,000. So theoretically, if this is, this is what it looks like it's going to happen, and you think you're going to get, or you're fairly confident that in future years you're going to have $100,000 of revenue that is going to go into your source, this TIF fund for this specific purpose. Well, then you could have $100,000 every year to use to try to help improve the project, or you could do a financing and try to, with the goal of using your future $100,000 every year to repay, so that you have a larger amount up front. so that you can do a larger project right now. You know, obviously, $100,000 isn't going to go very far with improving.
But that project would have to still relate to the
It has to meet
parcels.
Same criteria.
Same criteria.
It's just a larger.
Okay.
The
Broadly interpreted.
debt service is for financing related to the exact same description of the project.
And this TIF, the project TIF statute went into effect in 1994.
Where do the funds get housed?
You have to set up a capital improvement fund.
So we manage it?
Right.
Okay.
Separate.
It's not that the county tax doesn't,
No,
they don't manage it?
The county treasurer will direct.
All they do is send you a check into the account, to make a deposit.
I'm sorry, to be clear, when the village gets its settlement semi-annually, there'll be a separate column that shows TIF. There'll be a dollar amount that's specifically dedicated to that TIF. And there'll be a difference between that which is Pinecrest and that which is this TIF. There'll be two different ones. And that TIF from this project must be set aside in a capital improvement.
Well, we also get a breakdown in 406 too.
Correct. But you will have a specific dedicated TIF column for this project. And those dollars will flow directly and be accounted for in a capital improvement fund. And the name of the fund is identified in the legislation.
So in the end, after 30 years goes by, we will not look back and see any downside. Is that a fair statement?
And
That's why people do it.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
But I'm-
I believe it's that.
And I would tell you this, as I mentioned, there's 100+ TIFs. You know, the City of Independence has been doing these down-school TIFs for a number of years now. They probably have 18 or 19 of them, I believe, in their city, with multiple parcels within them. The City of Avon has 13 TIF districts with 500 parcels captured in this same type of program. A non-school TIF, to make the schools completely whole. They take all those dollars that they're capturing from the county and their city, putting them into a capital improvement fund, and they're using them for major public infrastructure along the corridor.
So the real risk is that whatever the project is pays its taxes.
Correct.
It's a risk.
By the way, TIF is on parity with property tax. Excuse me? TIF is on, these pilots are on parity with property tax. There's no difference between a pilot payment and a property tax payment. They are property tax.
To be paid.
Well, yeah, but if they're not paying their property taxes, then it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if it's in a TIF or not.
No, but you've got
Then you're not paying.
on your property that you have to deal with. I mean, there is something there and,
Correct.
yeah.
No different than any other distressed property or delinquent property you'd have, at some point, it would be remedied, in a way of foreclosure.
Yeah.
At some point, it gets remedied.
And I did verify equipment, exactly as I said. Any equipment is fine as long as it has at least a useful life of the project.
At least
Did you have a question?
Is there any determinant to a future developer when they look at this? Would we be sparing any potential?
So Catherine brought up a good point. If you, going back to that which is not TIF, that 40-some acres that remains undeveloped, if we perhaps dedicated by way of this, or we'll call it committed to this type of TIF, and they come in with some fantastic program that says we want to do a 400,000 square foot office building, and we have somehow compromised it with a different type of TIF, that may be an impediment to them. Right now, we have a nice clean slate for them, and if they come in and ask for something that seems to be robust and important to us, and we might be willing to consider something else. Of course, anything we take, and anytime we take anything from the schools, we have to go back to the schools. In this situation with this type of TIF, the important thing to remember is we do not need school board approval, and that's probably good for them, but they don't have to entertain any kind of approval. They just need money.
I can't imagine a situation where this would happen, but to follow up on Lisa's point, could we at any time revoke this?
You can. You can unwind.
There's
You can unwind.
Same thing.
I'll defer to Catherine, but I've been, at the Ohio GFOA just this year. They've talked about if you pass legislation, you could rescind it. Okay? Now, you can't rescind what you already have in place, but if you had a separate piece of legislation that had a parcel, you could just rescind it and then wait for another 5 or 6 years and reapply. But again,
I just say wait another 5 or 6 years.
Whatever period of time you decide to wait to put it back on, place it back on, you're establishing the base value after that year. Catherine, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I just heard months ago where someone asked that very question.
It's very interesting. So, just theoretically, let's say we do these 3 parcels, and like the back parcel, Pinecrest, like somebody to Pinecrest Caliber who came in with their own TIF and schedule and complications, wanted to do that. Can we take out that 1 parcel?
Can we take out which one?
So if we create a TIF for the 3 parcels, let's say A, B, C, and B and C are in the back. Let's say B wants to do their own different type of TIF. Can we carve them out?
I'll say I don't know the answer to carving them out. Again, when you think about rescinding existing legislation, perhaps there's a way to do that. But
I wonder if that's why Avon did 500 different ones, like for each parcel. They did a different.
So they were doing them in tranches where they were trying to capture TIF districts as the development was occurring in that area. So they didn't want to commit to a specific type of TIF before they knew what was going to happen in that area. And so they did it in pockets, if you will, along the commercial corridor. Almost all of Avon commercial is TIF in this manner. But they did it in 13 over a 10-year period of time. They've got 500 they've got 500 of them in a TIF district. They continue to work through them as the structures come online. I would say probably 300 of them have been exercised by way of a structure being built on them, and they're still working through the process with the state to get all 500 online. But there's a lot of parcels. Again, you think of somebody like Stronsville, who's got all kind of, we'll call it, storefronts on Pearl Road. They pretty much have flipped all of Pearl Road to try to capture all the development that occurs as one, we'll call it as one new development comes online that starts, we'll call it a domino effect.
The county allows them to do this just because they want to see the development? Is that it? What does the county get out of this?
The county gets development in Northeast Ohio, in Packard County.
Tax.
Sales tax and bed tax and other things that they capture, and jobs.
Okay, yeah, okay,
I mean,
all right.
it's an economic development.
Okay.
That's pure and simple. I don't disagree with you. We sit here and say, why would the county do this?
Yeah, I mean,
A few times.
Why would they do it? And to Scott's point, who knows that there's a day where somebody looks at this and says it's being repurposed, and the value, the return on the investment is not there. We don't know that that's not going to be the case.
you have to,
It's all over the state of Ohio.
you have to have developable land in order to do this. If you're already an island, we've been all built up, you've got no chance to use this. Your dollars are going to the county.
It can only apply to raw land?
You don't have much upside.
No, it can apply to any piece of property.
So there could be a building on it already, you're going to change the building and revalue it.
Bring up the
Yeah.
value.
Yeah, if you're going to change the value of that property, this could be applicable.
Yeah, but
And you can take a parcel out, it's not easy, it's not easy. And if you have a new developer who comes in, and they're, it's gonna be harder to say we can put anything, we can put anything on it. So it's obviously.
Fortunately, in this case, it's committed to one developer.
It's committed to one developer, so it's not, so you can't, legally you can remove a parcel. It's not, it's not easy, and it could become more complicated if you actually have financing. You'd have to look at, how that financing is structured and things like that. So it's not just, you press a button and take this one out. There are complications.
To your question or to your point, you're trying again, any situation where you have land or existing property, you're trying to pass this TIF legislation in the year when the base value is the lowest. And as an example, the Van Aken property in Shaker Heights, they were trying to time this to make a determination as to whether or not the county would assign a value before or after demolition at the lowest point. And sometimes if it's a blighted property, it's more valuable after it's demolished than when it sits with the blighted, whatever building sits on it. So you're trying to make a determination. In our case, it's pretty clear. We have land value, we have an increment in 2018, it makes sense to pass it this year.
Right. Well, these are two different issues. The one we're looking at here, the hypothetical one, is if we were to come to the future and there was, say, and let's just, for talking purpose, talk about a property on Chagrin Boulevard, where there was a building that might be, would go down or would be upgraded. It could be done there too.
We could have done it at the car wash.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I mentioned Strongsville Pearl Road. You have old hotels there that are been around since the 50s and 40s, and they take them down. They're trying to establish the base value in the year that those are done.
Do the Motel 6.
I was just going to ask.
The Motel 6.
There's no reason for us not to do it, but at some point, we would be fully tiffed up and developed, and then we would wind up contributing to the county's bills, and other places would be developing more land than we have. I mean, it becomes philosophically anyhow that some portions of the county are paying more of the county's bills than other portions of the county. I mean,
Don't disagree with that. We're here tonight because we want you to fill up a bucket of money.
For us, right. For us, I say it's not a reason not to do it. I mean,
fill up a bucket of capital improvement money. Yeah.
Did our neighbors, Warrensville, did they have a TIF when they started their development next door, or did a Hooja?
Development.
When they started at Harvard Park, when they put in, did they? I don't.
Heard of a TIF with the Chagrin Highlands before.
But that's why I'm curious, why we've caught it at the end. I just wanted to know what our other neighbors did, or if they needed it.
Hoosia's not for profit.
Yeah, the Hoosier wouldn't count.
Well, Beechwood did something with Eaton.
They did, most certainly they did. And
oh yeah, you're sure they got something?
no, they did. They gave, in fact, they did both. They did a CRA
TIF.
and a TIF.
Okay.
And
I don't know if Warrensville Heights did for Harvard Park or not. I never heard that happened.
I don't think so.
I think there may have been tax incentives.
So hypothetically, you're also saying if on this particular piece of property, if another developer comes to us, say to build a, a nursing home or something like that, then we wouldn't get the funding from that, or would we?
For-profit nursing home?
Yeah.
We would.
Oh, but non-for,
For-profit?
yeah, no, okay.
Matter of fact, the Lenders is considering tipping a for-profit seniors facility. North Royalton's considering doing the same thing before the end of the year for a for-profit senior facility. And it's on a secondary street, but to get there are a lot of roads in North Royalton that you could improve to capture some of these county proceeds and use for infrastructure.
It's not going to be hard. I mean, it's a you can easily make a case for lots of other projects, but I mean, that road's going to have to be rebuilt in 25 years.
Traffic signalization, road improvements throughout the village. That alone.
Are we discussing Harvard Road? Which road?
Orange Place South, the new road they put in that there's will be dedicated. It's going to be our responsibility to fix. Someday it's going to need it. So even if we don't make the case anywhere else, we're going to need it.
Like I said, the good news is that we'll be able to accumulate these until we have a project that makes sense, that has the right, that meets the criteria as a priority.
Mm-hmm.
And what year we break even on the soft costs is my question here.
Sorry?
I said what year we break even on the soft costs, but that was just...
Legal bills right now.
Depends how many questions you ask.
Sure, yeah, I got it.
A year.
All right.
30 years, do the math.
Anybody have any other constructive comments? No?
Thank you.
Well, thank you for the
Very
presentation.
helpful.
Both of you.
Before you walk out, if there's any reason to think you're gonna need them next week at third reading, let's.
Anybody?
Oh, I think you've been very succinct.
I think so. Nothing should change, really. We can always call with questions, can't we? I mean, yeah.
Yes, but as long as
You
it
can FaceTime.
Thank you, guys. All right, moving on to, any audience comments relating to agenda items? All right.
It's part of the meeting.
On your way out, will you flick those lights back on? If you don't mind, thank you. Moving on to old business, so pending legislation and motions, ordinance 2018-35. Thanks. An ordinance granting a rear yard setback variance to Mark and Carolyn Kangas for the property located at 29850 Smithfield Road, Orange Village, Ohio. This is on for second reading. It has been referred to planning and zoning, and there is a public hearing scheduled for November 14th.
And it was recommended for approval by planning and zoning last night.
Angus is?
Does anybody have any comments on that?
Do you have a copy of that approval letter?
No.
Yeah.
All right, Anna, we'll get that in for next week's packet, that we did planning and zoning last night?
Moving on to ordinance 2018-36, an ordinance enacting a new chapter 181 of the Orange Village Codified Ordinances to create the Orange Village Tax Incentive Review Council. This is on for second reading. I hope there's no other questions or comments on this. I know.
Does he need to tell us about that?
Well, Steve did last month, but Matt could say more.
I'm sorry?
The TIF Council. The creation
questions?
The TIF Review Council for the village.
Representatives.
Now, that has outside people on it. That has county people on it as well as Orange.
And a school board member.
And school board, too.
Yeah.
Is there a question?
Well, I was just curious how that has worked out historically in places where they exist. I mean, is it become one of those other bureaucratic issues that we have to deal with when it comes up, or?
It's a better path today than it had been in the past. There's a path of lesser resistance in terms of the conversation.
So it's like a one-stop thing for all the different entities.
Every community goes in and explains what incentives they provided and the benefits they received from the incentive. And the county doesn't get a vote on it, they just hear that the incentives have been rationalized.
We really have to have somebody go down there? I thought when we talked about it before, it didn't matter.
They schedule a meeting, you should attend.
You should attend.
And they have
All five of
the
our
ability to report back to.
No, two.
They have the ability to report back to the council, and you control what happens. They just make recommendations. So they don't have any authority over the issue. And of course, with this particular TIF we were discussing this evening, there's nothing to review.
Yeah, like employment hiring,
Right.
things like that.
That applies to CRAs and all kinds of other things that there may be compliance issues that need to be observed, and certainly with the Pinecrest TIF, they'd have to make sure it's going to the right places, that schools are getting what they're entitled to. There won't be anything to do on this one.
Any other comments? All right, moving on to ordinance 2018-37, ordinance declaring the improvement of certain real property to be a public purpose pursuant to revised code section 5709.40B, declaring such improvement to be exempt from real property taxation, designating public infrastructure improvements to be made that will directly benefit such property, requiring annual service payments in lieu of taxes, designating municipal public improvement tax increment equivalent fund for the deposits of such service payments, and authorizing compensation payments to the Orange City School District, and declaring an emergency. This is on for second reading. I assume that there's no other comments on this. Okay, and move on to new business. Ordinance 2018-38, an ordinance amending section 1327.01 of the Codified Ordinances of Orange Village to restate the deposit requirement for professional fees, ratifying prior actions taken in accordance with the established policy of the village, and declaring an emergency. This is on for first reading. Steve, do you want to?
Sure. This is restating something that we have on the books in the building department. The idea is this is not a specific number and is unlikely to change over the years, and this provides better transparency You put it in your codified ordinances, it's online. We already have this requirement adopted by an ordinance previously, but this, I think this is a better statement of the issue.
I thought this one added the fact that we can use it for some things that wasn't listed before.
Well, this is,
You want
I think this restates what we've been using it for.
But you've added some things.
Just, excuse me. Yeah, if there are other professional expenses or other expenses.
We don't have money on deposit, we don't have to do anything.
That's already in the rule. If there is a county charge, for example, that the village incurs for county inspections of, say, a sewer project, the county sewer department does plan review and inspects the installation. This would allow these deposits to be used for that purpose.
We found that they've been doing that, just putting it on our account somewhere in some piece of paper in the Department of Public Works at the county, but it has no meaning. And our account has had a lot charged against it because of them doing reviews for the developers, and this states clearly that we can pass that along, which we didn't have before.
Any other comments? Moving on to ordinance 2018-39, an ordinance granting a it's just a yard setback. Granting a yard setback variance to John and Billy Rowat for their property located at 30 Orchard Circle, Orange Village, Ohio. This is on for first reading. We changed things with the charter, but this would have to be referred to planning. See if, and then, okay, so.
This one and the next one will
would
probably be the last ordinances on variances because of the charter change. Next month, we'll bring an ordinance that amends the codified ordinances that gives us a new procedure where they will come in, they'll talk to the building department, it'll go to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and you will review it straight out of the Planning and Zoning. You won't have this.
Won't have to be sent back and forth, yeah.
It's ownership friendly.
Ordinance 2018-40, an ordinance granting a rear yard setback variance to Paul Pumapanit and Sarah Maury for their property located at 4160 Cambridge Court, Orange Village, Ohio. It's also on for first reading and referred to planning.
Question I have about this one, where it says, whereas in reviewing and considering the requested variance, the village administration has learned that prior owners of the property had constructed a screened porch. Was that something that was done with the permission of this village, or?
Not that we know of.
So they just built it?
That appears to be the case.
That never happens.
I mean, I hate to think of that 39-foot growth that we didn't add to be the justification for why they want to go out to a similar distance. Yeah. I'm just having a little problem with that. I mean...
And you can turn it down.
Huh?
I don't
You can-
understand. What's going,
The prior owners of the property.
There is a part of the structure that has been built into the setback for which no permit was ever pulled and no variance.
so this is to
By
increase that?
no, this is by a prior owner.
Prior owner.
And this is to
Make it legal.
authorize the existing setback and allow a new structure to go into that setback.
But what's it
When
doing?
they asked for a variance, we found that they had one already encroaching.
The property did by a prior owner.
Okay.
These are new purchasers of the property.
Yeah, they're working their way down the street, all of it.
Well, I think it was probably the same owner that tried to create a curb cut into Woodmere, too. And Woodmere put up barriers at the back of their property
Yeah.
going into their street.
On Cambridge.
Yeah.
Not
I'm talking
Waterford.
about- Oh!
Not on Waterford.
Oh, Cambridge Court, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what.
Wanted a rear exit?
This is, she's thinking of Waterford
House
Court.
Waterford, yeah.
When I saw that as one of the whereas clauses, I thought, you know,
Well, usually we don't get into that level of factual detail in the ordinance. You would have.
The whereas clauses, yeah, yeah. All right.
All right, moving on to ordinance 2018-41, an ordinance amending section of the codified ordinance of Orange Village requiring persons and/or entities to make a cleaning and repair deposit for use of the village municipal facilities and declaring an emergency. This is on for first reading.
That's a typo in the ordinance. It's 931.02.
1.1, A2?
Instead of B.
.02, actually, B.
02B.
Yeah.
I've wrestled with this for many, many years. I have never really wanted to, but it comes to the point where it's a real imposition to our service department, and if we have to bring somebody in on a Sunday to clean up after somebody, they're going to lose their deposit. They'll get it back if they clean up after themselves, and if we have undue expense due to it, then they'll pay for the cleanup.
The amount is low, to be honest with you.
Mayor, can you remind me, did we,
Deposit.
Mayor, can you remind me, did we ban parties in council
The
chambers?
door gets locked on the weekends,
Okay.
right, Anna? And it
Yes.
doesn't get booked or get,
We don't book parties, birthday parties in here anymore?
No.
Okay.
And if there's a birthday party booked in without them, we lock this door. For meetings only.
Nobody else thinks it's low?
I don't think it's too low.
No, it's not too low. It's, you like $100.
Kind of higher.
I think it should be punitive. If you don't clean up your mess,
You're going to lose your $100.
yeah, but
It won't cost us that much to clean it up.
I get that, but
Well, so
encourage people to clean up after themselves.
Yeah.
I would
Because it was more
assume
likely to clean it up.
that there's still, if they break something, they're still, and, I mean, they'd still be charged for the repair cost, granted, it wouldn't come out of a deposit, but,
I don't think there's ever been a case for that, not that there couldn't be or wouldn't be.
oh, except for microphones before, they used to break.
We deducted it from the councilman's pay.
That's fine, but,
How about the one that broke the door?
so, but anyways, I mean, we'd still charge them, this is just a, I don't know, if you guys want to go ahead and amend it, feel free to vote to do that.
It seems to me that it makes sense. The person that's going to clean it up is going to clean it up, they'll get their $200, whatever it is, $500, whatever it is. But that person who doesn't is somewhat incentivized to do it as a,
We pay.
yeah, we're going to pay for it anyways, so
You make it too high, people are not going to want to use the facilities.
I mean, think
is
about
that so
it.
terrible?
I've already paid for all this. I don't want it to be punitive. I don't want it to be, look like a high hill to climb.
Well, we paid for it collectively, but we're using it individually.
Well, so so if anybody wants to make a motion to amend this to increase the amount, this is,
Motion to amend it to $200.
okay, is there a second?
Second?
Okay, if you'd call roll on that, Anna, please.
Harry,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Braverman,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Bilski,
No?
Nope.
Duber.
No. All
Passed.
right, so it did, and so now it's a $200.
As a point of information, how many, I know I've reserved the pavilion for baseball picnic and that kind of stuff. How many times a year is this actually an issue where Bob and whoever else have to go, the department have to go through and provide cleanup?
Quite frequently.
Is it?
Quite frequently. When the new playground went in, it's been booked pretty solid all the time. And what we're finding is that, even with having the dumpsters available, they'll leave on a Saturday, Sunday afternoon, they'll leave 6, 7 bags of trash. And when we come in, I've literally had, on occasion, about 2.5 hours of cleaning up trash and debris in the woods.
In the office.
We're trying to curb this by simply just be responsible and dispose of it.
We track the folks who are doing this, so the next time they go to,
Rules of what they're expected to do.
right,
And we know exactly who was there and who made the mess. I don't know if we do if there's 2 parties on a Sunday, nobody comes in between to check it out.
The issue is, it's not fair to multiple people. So if somebody rents it on Friday and it's a mess, who's cleaning up Saturday? And the person that comes in Saturday, they're expecting a clean pavilion ready to go for their party. And then there's, subsequent parties after that. And it's been an issue. We do receive calls that I've showed up here and the place is a disaster. That very well could happen in the hotel room too if it's rented on a Saturday and then turn around Sunday.
So if somebody uses it on Friday and it's a mess, will we call somebody in on overtime to Saturday to clean it up for the next person?
If I have to, yeah. But that's when they'll lose a deposit. They're more than likely to clean up after themselves and get their money back. That's the purpose of this. But they don't lose anything.
Incentive.
But I mean, if you read through here, there's all sorts of things about capturing animals and things. It's really a garbage problem. It's not a structural damage issue.
Well, it's garbage, it's stuff that we come in and there's tape on the walls. I mean, when we used to allow this, we're breaking microphones. Anything can happen, so,
Are we allowed to ban, if somebody is, leaves trash, are we able to ban them from?
Do not rent list?
Sure, if there's, legal or not.
The form says if you don't take care of it, I don't know what the wording is, but you won't have the privileges.
You lose that privilege to rent it or to use it? Okay.
Understand, if we can target that somebody is the responsible party, they're already, under our ordinance, liable for it. What this does is, it's the incentive to clean it up.
Up after yourself.
Chase them around for it, I mean.
How many times do you have to tell your kids to pick up their socks,
Chase us around, I mean, we'll take their 200 and then.
All right, anybody, any other comments on that? Okay, so Steve, you'll make the change for next reading, thank you. Okay, moving on to ordinance 2018-42, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Village of Moreland Hills for the joint purchase and operation of a sewer camera and locator and declaring an emergency. This is on for first reading.
I'd like to ask if Bob is compelling enough in his explanation that we suspend and pass next week, because I think Moreland Hills has already passed the permission process.
yes, they're going through, they actually are going to use their sewer fees from Northeast Ohio Regional as an opportunity to purchase. And then
On them, they're ready to put up the money. We're just waiting on this.
Are you familiar with the equipment? The equipment, are you familiar with it? So are you familiar with the equipment that we're buying?
Yes, we've actually used push cameras from other communities before, and it's becoming problematic farther out. This is somebody, a distant community, so we found another opportunity here to equipment share, and Moreland Hills is our candidates here. We're right next door. Just a reminder, we also share the mini excavator along with the roller. The roller we share also with Pepper Pike. So there's a lot of things happening as far as Ohio utility protection requirements, locating. This will allow us to start doing some of it. We still need to address other areas to be compliant by the law of underground markings. So
Locator?
this is a sewer camera and a locator. So it does a 12-inch pipe and less. The locator allows us to find out the direction of where the sewer camera is actually going. So, for example, a resident calls and they're looking for where the possible clean out is. Hopefully we can assist in locating it.
Okay.
Very good.
Any other?
The locator was a little guy that walked around with it.
Like we did with the other equipment, the same thing.
As you can see in the agreement, it will primarily be housed over here in Orange Village. This isn't a piece of equipment that requires a lot of annual maintenance like a mini excavator and stuff. It's something that it's there available when needed. We did demo 3 different units along with Moreland Hills, or looked at 3 different units, and this was the lowest one and fitting.
How soon is the technology going to be?
It's pretty, they, you know what, the ones that are out there, they've been using them for 10 years, but technology changes all the time, so.
So can we suspend next week?
Yeah.
Suspend the rules?
Next week.
I don't care if you do it tonight or next week, but.
So we'll move to suspend.
All right, so moving on to Resolution 2018-7, resolution requesting the fiscal officer to advance taxes in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code and declaring an emergency.
We have to do this if we want our money.
This is an annual resolution you pass that asks the fiscal officer to send you the taxes when they're paid, when they receive them, rather than waiting to pay you everything in the final settlement. This is really housekeeping.
Any questions?
Something we need to act on right now?
I have a motion to adopt.
141, no?
I'll make a motion to adopt. Is there a second?
Second. Oh,
If you'd call roll, please, Anna.
quick enough.
Harry? Barron?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Bilski?
Yes.
Studer?
Yes.
Stuber?
Yes. As you can see in your packet, the Ohio Division of Liquor Control request, the request from YOS Concept LLC, Wasabi, name change from Nan Lin as the managing member to Tan Dong Chen as the managing member. I assume nobody objects. Does anybody object to that? Okay.
I don't even know what.
Look, council has the authority to file an objection.
Because we don't like the new name?
Well, you could, if there were a background check, there may be
Yeah, no
a legitimate objection, and there's no problem based on this person.
Okay, but I
You don't
thought-
need to take any action.
I thought we send it to council when there's a problem.
Well, council is the entity that makes the
So
choice not to make
Council
it.
wants to make that decision. Says there's no issues.
Authority to make
I
the
know,
decision.
it's just a new.
Just wait, all the,
An issue, this
New
is,
measures.
I guess if there's a problem there, this would be a great opportunity to object, right?
Right.
All right. Okay.
Phantom audience.
Reports and comments by council members. Ms. Berry.
Just a reminder that next week at 7 o'clock we'll be meeting with the Finance Committee to go over the budget, which I see is at our desk in a new format than we've seen in previous years. So look it over, and I'm sure if you had questions beforehand that Dana is here all week and will be able to help field and answer some questions if you want to comment.
Anna, will you send out an email to everybody on like Tuesday, just reminding everyone that it's at 7 o'clock? Thank you.
Like every other year is to, although you're getting it a whole week ahead of time, is the next week we have the discussion. And we have a whole month to make suggestions or whatever, and then we'll ask for passage in December.
So you want to see it 7 o'clock next week?
7 o'clock next week.
Is that enough time?
It always has been.
I feel like we always, okay.
If it's not, then we can run into the council meeting.
Yeah, no, that's fine, okay.
I think Dana has prepared so much detail and so much backup. You know, she highlighted all the things and.
You probably have a better feel.
And the department heads will be here as well.
And if, you know, we can have another one next, if anybody has any other questions.
Have further discussion.
Making sure. Any other comments, Lisa?
The garden wrapped up the season. It was really successful. We only had a few people who were not the best renters, for lack of a better word to call them. We've addressed these issues individually with these people. We'll see if they'll come back next year. And over the winter, I think that one of our goals for Fred and myself is to present to Bob and Anna after we kind of hash out some things. Maybe tweaking some of the rules so that we utilize the garden to its best potential.
I'm speechless.
Braverman.
Well, I have a small problem here. I told the mayor that I would go to NOPEC's annual meeting on the 13th. I cannot make it. I have something scheduled that I can't move around.
Ron?
So I need somebody who'd love to go.
What time is it?
The Hilton Garden Inn in Twinsburg.
Yeah.
Noon, it's
I think I
noon.
have to bring back all this news about
Cheers.
Lovely lunch and a little annual meeting. You'll pick up a few tchotchkes and you never know what's going to happen there. Okay.
It's next Tuesday? It's the 13th of November?
Next Tuesday.
Tuesday, it's next Tuesday.
We'll be glad to do it, Herb.
Oh, how nice.
Ron, you're such a good guy.
Now I'm not speechless anymore.
leave it to Ron.
We need to get a new proxy.
Paperback?
I think the proxy's in there. I could be wrong. Yeah.
I'll just take the proxy. Okay.
This is the packet that you sent to me. Now,
Yeah, but it has a blank proxy in there, because,
oh, I see. A proxy?
no, see, your name's on it.
Yeah.
We'll change it to Ron's.
Okay.
And then can you email it to Ron so he has it?
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, any other comments? All
Nothing else, thank you.
right, Mr. Bilski.
I had a couple of questions. I was curious if there was any more news about the problems we had with the water and Solon and reimbursements and everything?
We haven't heard back. Ann has been nagging them to give us some answers, and no, not yet.
We're supposed to have an
Friday.
answer on that Friday. I think they were supposed to get back with us.
That is not the Solon part, that's just the reimbursement part. I will add to my list of meetings to organize is, I will be more motivated if the county doesn't pay us back. I mean, if the water department doesn't pay us back.
And then for Bob, it looks like the traffic pattern and the signals have physically changed. Are those the final ones, or is there still more tweaking to take place?
There's probably nobody more frustrated in this village besides me and the chief about the traffic signals, so it's always been a moving target. There's a lot of involvement with it. The last thing I got, I sent something out today, the last message I got, that the traffic engineer will be looking at it this week and completing next week as the component of getting everything squared away and on board. There's still many other things to go into place. We've got 2 developers, we've got 3 traffic signal contractors, Ohio Department of Transportation, and the village all involved with this.
And Beechwood.
Yes, and the city of Beechwood.
So, I mean, is it realistic with Black Friday, 2 weeks from Friday, that this will be done by then?
I gave out information a while ago based on what they were telling me, and we see how that works. So I'm a little less likely to give you any kind of dates until I get it finalized. So I can say it's close. It's out of the village's hands right now because the 2 developers, you know, they came in, Spring Highland South is finishing theirs. We did a walkthrough and inspection for a punch list, and it was on it. You know, and all that has to be in place actually before that road, the village would accept that road as a dedicated road. So.
Then the last, I'm sorry.
I've seen an improvement, though. Have you
Yeah, it's
all?
definitely getting better.
I think partly because now that it's open, there's not trucks blocking some of the lanes, and, you know, it's,
But there are times where 271 backs up, going northbound on the exit there, and people have nowhere to go in the intersection and that turning lane, and, yes.
Anecdotally, I was looking out the window today at 5:45, and there was a lot of traffic. But the traffic emptied off of 271 and went through the light directly by Pinecrest. So it's definitely an expanded time frame. It may not be optimal, but it's moving. And there was no car that was waiting on Harvard that couldn't get through the Harvard Pinecrest traffic signal.
glad you have a perch.
You can get a clip.
Be our policeman,
Watching?
nothing else to do.
You could do the traffic reports, daily traffic reports by Ron Barrett.
One, I'll be waving to you when I come by, so look for that.
Give him a police scanner.
And then the last question I have, what caused the trail, the street closure delay here? Because I thought it was supposed to be tomorrow, and now it says November 12th.
Started Monday, and we said, no, you're not closing the road over election day.
Yeah.
And then we said Wednesday. Take it away, Bob, what's going on?
It's the 12th.
Actually, I talked to Brian today.
I don't know, it's just, they're not hungry.
We have a progress meeting scheduled with a contractor on Friday. There's been some delays. Now, as you see what the weather forecast this weekend is.
Snow.
There's also some concerns there. The new time frame is that they will, in fact, be starting Monday. The tree clearer will be back on Landon Road tomorrow, supposedly. And they'll be cutting in the access to the property on Miles Road. Just as a reminder, that's where a good fair amount of this dirt is going to be graded out over between West Orange Hill and Stonebrook. So they still anticipate getting started and getting some work done.
We don't have any concerns about these contractors, do we?
He's got a face.
Let's know after the progress meeting.
Comforting.
It's not like all the projects we've been doing for 20-some years,
That's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Klein?
Well, just to further that conversation, interestingly enough, I had a conversation with Brian Mader this afternoon. I had called him on something unrelated, and he, offered some insight as to what, I said, okay, the sign's up, and I can still go up and down the street. What's the problem? And there's still, apparently, there's some general conditions that that the contractor is required to, and they haven't resolved some of those issues yet, and so that's creating a delay. And because of there is some concerns relative to where cars are going to park relative to the holidays and the weather that is impending. So there's some discussion that Friday will address. There's a lot of moving parts.
Are there penalties in their contract for failure or delay?
I hope.
I think the village engineers talked to our law director about that, but as far as the contract is, technically, they have till the fall of 2019 to complete this project. We're in chapter 1 right now, so.
So maybe they won't start till June, but they can get it done by then.
Well, one of their...
Starting a project in November is not ideal. It's an earth project.
One of the issues is if they start something, if they take out a driveway and leave somebody without access for the winter, that's not going to be acceptable. And we cannot control their means, methods, and materials. We're not permitted to interfere with that. But if they cause damages to somebody, they're gonna hear about it. And we have to phrase it the right way to say, hey, you're gonna be in trouble if you have these issues. I don't have plans to be there right now.
Do you need him at the meeting Friday? Good.
Anything else, Mr. Klein?
Yeah, just two other things. Planning Commission met last night. As you know, we approved or recommended for approval to council the variance for the house, pardon? Angus house. And everyone was in full agreement, once understanding all of the particulars of that issue. A number of other items approved, mostly houses. We have 2 more houses approved in Lakes of Orange. There are 25 new houses in process of construction in Orange Village right now, and more to come. Particularly in the Lakes of Orange development, but there are other houses around the village that are also being constructed, and that doesn't include additions to houses that are there. So there's a lot of robust activity going on in Orange over and above what's happening over at Pinecrest and continuing to happen in Pinecrest. And then we had some discussion on a couple other items that had to do with outdoor dining areas for Condado and Next Door Eatery, and worked through those and had some discussions about the ongoing site alterations that result from having outdoor eating space, and developed a sort of a criteria for that discussion. The other thing I wanted to mention is I met with our soon-to-be new state representative, Juanita Brent, last week to talk to her about the collaborative economic development group that started under John Barnes' watch, and discussing with her continuing the effort to work collaboratively with the other members of District 12 along with the adjacent communities that we had included in the program, which included Solon, Shaker Heights, Beechwood, and Woodmere. So we're going to...
District 12.
I thought they weren't... oh yeah, I guess they are. So we're going to... She was enthusiastic about continuing to pursue that effort, and I shared with her some of the things that we had been involved in doing, and we're looking to do further with it, and we'll continue to have that discussion with her as she takes office in January.
Thank you.
And that's all I have to say about that. Happy welcome to November. And the holiday seasons begin.
I don't have a council report, but I've got a very mini statement I'd like to make. A mini statement. As an elected councilwoman of Orange Village for almost 32 years, I pledge tonight to work against all forms of hatred and to continue to promote tolerance and freedom for all residents, regardless of faith, creed, or color. This is after the heinous massacres of 11 worshippers in the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh and the fatal murders of 2 African Americans in a Kroger store in Kentucky. Oh, yes, I didn't know. I didn't know where that was. Was it in California? Okay. Oh, Florida. It's been a very hard week for me this week, to say the least. But I just feel if I put this out, that people will know that I am absolutely against all forms of hatred. So, thank you.
Thank you.
You hate hatred?
I would just advise everybody that we did have just under 70% of our residents voted, our eligible residents voted.
How many? How many was that in numbers?
We have 2,654 registered voters, 1,849 voted.
Okay, that was pretty high for us.
Charter amendments passed?
All the charter amendments passed. Yes. Congratulations to Orange Village to have a permanent infrastructure levy revenue source.
And
everything went through.
Everything passed.
No requirement for approval in the for variances with or zoning changes in the precincts.
Yeah, no double counting of the votes.
Mayor, just to give some range, the city of Cleveland had 40% turnout.
We did really well.
45%, did I see that, I think, in the report?
45.
It was yesterday morning, it was out the door for most of the morning. It settled down in the afternoon and then just...
I arrived at 6:36 a.m. The polls have been open for 6 minutes, and there were 40 people in line in front of me.
Wonderful. I think
And I was in and out of here in 20 minutes.
Why didn't work out?
It's wonderful.
It was unbelievably busy.
So congratulations to all you guys and to Orange, and that will serve the community well.
All I can say is on a lighter note, I did voter protection in Beechwood when I was assigned to Menorah Park.
That's where you belong.
The whole day was traffic control, wheelchairs and walkers. I mean, it was unbelievable.
What?
They voted, they all voted, everyone voted.
Can I?
Any other?
Just as a reference back to the charter amendments, I don't know if any of the other council people had calls from residents in regards to the council charter amendments. I had several.
You did?
A couple of them, however, I was the last call they made. They apparently had called a number of the members of council, and I was the only one they were able to reach.
No, I got that phone call. I got that phone call, and I called that person back. It was the same woman. Early in the morning, I called her. Don't believe it.
Okay, well, communication is really important. The myth is whether it's taken place at all.
Thank you. She said, thank you for even bothering to call me back. Nobody else did. Same person.
So my only comments, first of all, the charter, I want to thank Lisa for helping out with the charter review. She was very helpful in everything, especially having experience of doing it before, and the members who aren't here today. They did a great job. I think we had a great charter review committee, and I'm glad everything passed. Next week, we're going to be introducing a ordinance. It's not a full recycling ordinance, but it's a ban of the use of plastic bags in the village for, it's basically an end user. So when you purchase goods at a store or take food to go from the, what's that?
You're introducing it next week, but I really haven't even talked to the building department yet about how they're going to manage enforcement, and I think Bob has thoughts about it. We haven't finished reviewing it internally. You can introduce it, but we can't be for it yet. We haven't figured it out yet.
Okay, well, I'm in favor of it. I mean, it's something that we've been talking about for a while. I don't think it's that complicated of an ordinance necessarily. Like I said, it'll be sent out next week. You know, I think
And the plastic straws, put that one in.
That's a separate issue. So I think it's something that I think is very important for us. You know, somebody's got to, at some point, you know, start making a difference with, you know, the environment. And this is something that's being done in a lot of communities in other states, not necessarily Ohio, but a lot of
California, Arizona.
California, Colorado, New York, Washington, Oregon, the whole Northeast, Florida, et cetera. So this is going on everywhere, and I think it would be good for the village to kind of take an initial, I guess, stance on this. So that'll be coming around, and those are my only comments.
And the peddler
Yes.
ordinance, too. What's that? The peddler ordinance?
Oh. I don't know if did I see this yet? Oh, so, but,
Actually, we're not going to put it on here. We're going to have discussion.
oh. Well,
Next week, we're going to have an executive session on prospective litigation.
Tonight?
litigation? Next
Oh,
week.
okay.
And so I think that's all I have. So, well, we don't really need a motion to adjourn, do we, Steve?
The red house.
But we don't need one. So, meeting is adjourned.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
All right.
Do you want me?
It'll be a long night at the farm next week, 7 o'clock.
Well, you'll get it done.
Got a text from